So, what does letting go mean? Hey, it's Tobey here from Training Business Pros. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're talking about a specific universal law that applies to the concept of letting go. Some people call it the law of detachment, some people call it the law of flow. And I'm going to go through in a little bit of detail what it means, some things that you can do to leverage this specific universal law and get the results that you're looking for in an easy and relaxed manner. And we're going to get into that in just a second. Hey, welcome back. We're talking about the law of detachment, or what some people refer to as the law of flow. And it's really about letting go. And so let's discuss this in detail. So essentially, there are 5 reasons to learn and practice the law of detachment. Yes, you can practice it. And there's also one thing that most people think this law is, which it actually isn't. It's the opposite, and we're going to get there eventually. So the first thing is you want to learn and practice the law of detachment because fighting and struggling is simply exhausting. So if you think about this in the context of your daily life, when you're facing problems and confrontation, and you're in a situation that you're resisting, what we tend to do is fight more against that. We resist it. We complain about it. We do everything but say, oh, this is just the way things are supposed to be. In some cases, I refer to that as the 3 resistances in a rule. If I get 3 resistance or 3 negative things that happen to me in a rule, I basically regroup, reassess, and come at it from a different perspective. But most people do not do this. They fight hard for their point of view. In fact, many people want to be so right that they can't possibly ever get what they want because to everyone else, they're wrong, but they're fighting against everyone else's opinion. And therefore, it's very hard to get the result that you're looking for. Secondly, it's because it's so much easier to swim downstream. If you've ever actually swam in a river where the current was strong, and I remember I used to do this when we used to go water skiing, and often the current would take me with my ski on and holding the rope, and it basically, the more I struggled against it, the more exhausting it became. So I just kind of learned to just sort of lay there and just go with it, because if you resist that current, you tend to run out of a ton of energy. So just remember that in life, things tend to unfold in their own good time. And trying to resist that and speed it up in your time is a bit of a lost cause. Number 3, you want to learn this law because worry, fear, and doubt are literally the enemy of success. So one at a time. Worry is when you're constantly concerned about what's happening next, or what's going to happen, what will be the outcome of this situation. And you're constantly playing that mental movie in your head about the potential outcomes rather than just letting the outcome be the outcome. Fear is, of course, the opposite of faith. Faith means believing in something even when common sense tells you not to. But fear is really a very resistant mode. It's like constantly being on edge of what's happening and what's going to happen next. And finally, doubt is when you are constantly saying to yourself, well, it never really works out. I doubt that I'm actually going to get there. I doubt that this business deal is going to come through. I doubt that I'm going to do well in my next public speaking gig. You're setting the bar low so that you're not going to be disappointed when something bad goes wrong. Does that make sense? It's like we tend to set the bar low instead of high. High means, if we shoot for the stars, at least we're going to hit the moon. But if we set it low, it's like, okay, well, I'm just trying not to be disappointed when the outcome is not what I'm looking for. And number 4, it's because energy is everything and your creative magnetic energy is always working. So energy is everything. Well, if you're not familiar with this statement, it typically means in terms of getting a specific outcome. Energy is not just physical, but it's also emotional. It's also mental. It's also spiritual. And the amount of energy that you put into resisting a situation causes you to feel anxiety and overwhelmment and all of these negative emotions. And that emits a very low frequency, which then attracts similar situations, circumstances, and people to you. So what you want to do instead is, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard the phrase, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, essentially, if you're doing things for a specific outcome that you don't love, there's always going to be a level of resistant energy in that. So what you want to do is you want to be more creative from an enjoyment standpoint. Let's use our intrinsic motivational creative energy to get a specific outcome. And that energy comes from a place of, well, I enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm also after this big goal. Those two things put together creates enthusiasm. Anything created from a place of enthusiasm is a much, much higher level on the energy scale. And so you magnetize situations and circumstances and opportunities and people to you by emitting this level of energetic enthusiasm. It's not for everybody to think and feel this way, simply because nobody's been taught to think and feel this way. Nobody's been taught this language of universal law, the law of letting go, the law of detachment. And this law is a really good idea to practice because intrinsic or inherent within it is this law called the law of least effort. And by the way, that for most people, that's like, well, I don't really care what happens and let's just see. That's not least effort. It is no effort. Least effort means using that creative magnetic energy that you have, but in a non-confrontational, struggling, worry-filled, doubtful manner. Think of it like this. If you've ever swung a golf club, and maybe golf's not your thing, so let me explain. Most golfers know that it's called a golf swing. It's not called a golf hit, such as hitting a baseball. A golf swing means your arms swing easily and effortlessly, and you apply the least amount of effort to hitting the ball. As long as you hit that ball square, it doesn't matter how hard you hit it, it's going to go a very good distance and very straight. So applying the law of least effort is one of the things that golfers do. And it is a great way to practice literally the law of detachment. So the law of least effort, if you put a swing effort into something, it's just like going with the flow, and you hit something and the outcome still is not to your liking, then the law of detachment comes in and you say to yourself, I'll get them next time. Or, how is this hurting me? How is this outcome that I just received not affecting me in a negative way? So applying the law of least effort is really one of the initial stages of the law of detachment, which then brings us to what the law of detachment is not, which many people believe that it is. And what it's not is giving up. So I mentioned this briefly before, but I think it takes further explanation. So the law of least effort, the law of detachment, the law of letting go, the law of flow, all of that combined doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take the proper behavioral action. What it means is the action that you take is from a place of least effort, but it's also enjoyable. It's also creative. It's also magnetic. But it doesn't mean you should give up at the first sign of trouble, at the first sign of roadblocks. Those roadblocks are intended to help you learn your place in the world. If the law of attraction, for example, worked for us easily and effortlessly, if we never had to learn it, by the way, just FYI, the law of attraction is always working, whether you like it or not. It's just that most people don't know how to make it work for them in a positive way. And so I usually say in my mantras, in an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way, I wish this thing to come to me. So it doesn't mean I should do nothing. It doesn't mean I should give up. It means I should apply this creative magnetic energy to a specific outcome. And then whatever comes, and in most cases, I can tell you when you do this well, the result is as good or better than you expected, which is why I always include this or something better in my mantras. But because most people do not understand or have learned this language, it's more like, let's fight, let's struggle, let's be confrontational, and you've heard the expression, I'm going to fight for what I want. That tends to backfire, and people stay in the same place. They go up a little bit, come back a little bit, up a little bit, come back a little bit. But when you actually learn and practice the full law of detachment, what you'll see is results tend to build on each other in a never-ending sort of bell curve, if that makes any sense. So that's my perspective on what letting go means. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please write them below and I'll get to them. And please subscribe to the channel. There are a lot more videos about this. And just FYI, I know for certain that without the law of detachment, I would not be where I am today. So I hope you learn it, practice it, and we'll see you next time.